Euflax's Seasons of Joy. With your host, Chanel Martinez.
Happiness in my soul, I feel joy. Hey, happiness in my soul, now I feel joy. Happiness in my soul, I feel joy. Happiness in my soul. So many people feeling down right now, cause the money in the pocket is like a dry ground. It's getting rough now. You're living from hand to mouth, you're feeling different.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the final show of Euflax's Season of Joy. I'm your host, Chanel, along with my co-host, Deidre. And today on the show, we'll be speaking to DJ Lyons, Nathaniel Forbes, along with Miss Shakina Bush, and some other members of a sports team. You know, we'll find out when they get here.
The word of the week is bureaucracy. bureaucracy.
It is a noun meaning a system of government which most of the important decisions are made by the state officials rather than by elected representatives.
The Bible verse for the day is taken from 2 Corinthians 10 verses 3 to 5. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ.
As always, you can join in on a conversation by calling 1-800-534-8255, toll-free courtesy of Flow, or join us on YouTube Live. So just to start things off, we're now joined by Miss DJ Lyons. Hello?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you loud and clear. How are you, DJ?
I'm good. How are you guys doing today?
Not too bad.
Good.
So, DJ, for those who don't know you, can you just quickly introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name is DJ Lyons. I'm 18 years old, and I'm an environmental advocate and advocate and activist. Sorry about that. So while I was back home, because right now I'm currently in the United Kingdom for university, I was a part of a youth-led organization called Protect Our Future. I was the vice president of that organization for 2 years. I'm also a part of two other international missions called Captain Planet and Lonely Whale. They both work together to create a boot camp called Ocean Heroes Boot Camp. I was a part of that. So currently with them, I am an editor of an environmental magazine called Awake. And I am also a plastic-free youth ambassador. So that's just a little bit about me and the work that I've done.
Sounds like a good amount of work.
It's been a lot of work.
So we know that you went away recently to represent Cayman in Glasgow, I think it was. So can you tell us what is COP26? What does it stand for and what it is about?
So COP26 actually stands for Conference of the Parties, and then 26 stands for the amount of meetings that have been held. So basically what happens is a whole bunch of countries from all around the world, including small island states, CARICOM states, Pacific Islands, so even from the smallest countries all the way up to like the US, UK, Canada, all come together to discuss climate change. And the effects it has had on their countries, their people, the citizens, the community, the society. With that, once reviewing that, what political leaders do is they start to make agreements and policies and basically new rules and regulations and agreements together or separate to start to mitigate and create adaptations, strategies to climate change. So during this time, I don't know, have you guys ever heard of the Climate Change Paris Agreement?
No, I haven't.
So that one was made in 2015. So that's one of the biggest climate change agreements because that's an agreement that includes so many different countries. So that's just one example of something that happens. But usually it pertains to, the agreements include carbon offsets or transportation in terms of going more towards electric cars, or talking about our energy consumption as countries or global citizens. So those are the kind of things that are discussed during the conference. So yeah.
And how were you selected to represent all UK overseas territories?
So that's a funny story, because one of my mentors and I were trying to discuss that a couple days ago. And there's the version we think that happened was, so the International National Trust Organization, which is the head of our national trust back in the Cayman Islands, had a couple passes for something called the Blue Zone. And the Blue Zone is where all of the agreements and new policies and so on are made. So I was offered one by the Cayman Islands National Trust. And then it seems as if someone started talking about this panel and wanting to have like a youth leader on this panel that was full of like ministers. So Miss Kathy reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in doing that. And then someone else on the government side reached out to me and asked me if I was going to COP26. And then I was like, yes, I am. And then once again asked me to be on the panel again. I was like, oh, I think I already heard about that, but yeah, sure. So it's kind of two ways, but yeah, that's how that happened.
That's cool.
That's amazing. And how does it feel to know that you represented youth across the world? Because UK overseas territories are not only in the Caribbean, they're all over the world, really. So how does it feel to know that you represented a bunch of youth all across the world?
Well, there's a lot of pressure that came with that, obviously, because there's a lot of British overseas territories. And together we actually make 90% of the UK's biodiversity. So it was a bit of pressure, but I was so thankful and I'm grateful for the opportunity. And I felt like, especially what I said during my speech, I think I did well in terms of representing the youth of the overseas territories. Because one thing that I did highlight was the fact that climate change is not happening in the future. It's happening right now. And for us, our generation and future generations to come, we can no longer have politicians apologize for the actions that they made during this time. Right now, we need them to do the right thing, do what they know is right, not act out of greed or not acting out of greed. So for me, I think that I did a good job, but like I said, it was a lot of pressure, and I hope I did well if other people or other youth leaders or youth members of our overseas territories watched it.
I'm pretty sure you did well. And do you think that by taking on this position and this task that you may have gained some people who look up to you, some people who think they may want to be like you in the future?
I think so, because doing this, I feel like I've let people know that just because you're a girl from a small island in the Caribbean or a small island in the Pacific Islands or wherever it is, we will still all have a voice, and those opportunities will come. Once you work for it and you really want it, it will all work out in the end. But yeah, there's people that have reached out and said how inspirational my words were, which I appreciate. But there's also been people who don't want to look up to me at all, and I mean, that's okay. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I think a lot of people look at me as an 18-year-old and say, like, what is she doing? Like, does she really think that she knows what she's talking about? But at the end of the day, especially as a youth member of our community, and us having to take over our island one day and take the positions of our political leaders now, I think it's important for people to realize that we need a seat at the table from now to let people know what we want and what we want in our future, what we want to see, what we want to do. So I really do hope that I did inspire people, but I really want people to remember that, especially as youth leaders and youth members and global citizens, we have just the same amount of rights as the adults. Like this, we all live in the same world, live on the same island. We have to live with the same things, and we will all have to live with the consequences of climate change. So I think we all need a seat at the table.
So, what inspired you to take action against climate change?
Well, for me, my environmental journey started 2 years ago, going on 3, if I'm not mistaken. And what kind of inspired me was growing up on a small island my whole entire life. I remembered what 7 Mile Beach looked like when I was 5 years old, and then 2 years ago, I was looking at pictures that my mom had of me, like on the beach, and I was like, why does the beach not look the same? We would go snorkeling. Some of the corals wouldn't look the same, and there was just different signs that I was seeing, and I just realized my environment was not the same. So I went to an ocean conservation camp called Ocean Heroes Boot Camp that I mentioned a bit earlier, and one of the things that they did touch on was climate change and how it has affected our oceans, and a lot of the things that they were saying that I would have seen, like coral bleaching or our shorelines receding and the water level rising and the temperature of the water increasing, like it all started to make a lot of sense. And I didn't want to just sit down and not do anything about it, especially if I've already seen it. So I know about it, being a part of POF. For the past 2 years, and on G's or different ways, I think our island can do better in terms of mitigating and adapting to climate change and kind of gaining our resilience against that.
Okay, you were breaking up for a bit. If you can remember everything you just said, would you mind us repeating? Because we didn't really get what you said in full. My apologies.
So I was saying to you guys that basically for me, what inspired me was growing up on the island, and from the age of 5, my parents were always taking me to the beach. But my most vivid memories as a young child had to be when I was 5 and just going to the beach and having so much space to play on, going snorkeling with my dad and all the different marine life that were there. And years ago, I was becoming more involved in the environment, realizing that our shorelines had begun to recede, ocean acidification had begun, and that I could see that in terms of coral bleaching and various different factors that had taken place. So once I went to Ocean Heroes Boot Camp, and they started talking about how climate change would affect our oceans, a lot of it started to make sense and what was causing our environment to change so drastically. So I decided that if no one was going to say anything about it, then I would have. So being a part of POF allowed me to do that and find a voice in that and share what my opinions were in terms of strategies that would create more resilience for our island, would help us to adapt to climate change, and different mitigation strategies.
Okay, thank you. So we're just going to go to a quick music break and we'll get right back to the conversation.
First music break, we've been listening to It's So Hard to Say Goodbye, Boyz II Men.
How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good time that made us laugh, I'll wait them back.
for all people by young people.
Welcome back, everyone. We're still joined by Miss Dejae Lyons. Hello, Dejae?
Hi, I'm still here.
Welcome back. So,
Thank you.
how was the conference for you? Was there anything that new that you learned? Any experiences that were life-changing even?
First of all, the conference was absolutely amazing. I still have one more day. I'm actually in Glasgow right now as we speak. But I still have one more day. But so far, I mean, throughout the duration of this week, it's been absolutely fantastic. There's been so many new things that I've learned about, so many panels. Something that has really stuck with me is there's something called the pavilion. So all these different countries, different NGOs, different groups of people have these pavilions where you're allowed to go and watch panels from them, and they speak on different topics and subjects that may interest people while all relating it back to climate change. One thing that I watched that was really interesting was an Indigenous people panel, and this lady, she had a documentary, and it was basically talking about how her First Nation, so the tribe that she's from, the land has been affected by climate change, and the reason why is because there's several different things, but a lot of air pollution has begun to affect their area, and on top of that, their area is being deforested heavily by different oil companies to extract oil and to be used as fossil fuels and so on. So that was interesting for me because I asked her, how would I, as a person who is not from the Indigenous people community, be able to help you besides just posting on social media? And she asked me the question if we had any Indigenous people, and as far as their history books state, we don't. However, there are Indigenous groups that are in the Caribbean. So I thought that was something interesting for me to start exploring, because that's something that I've always really been interested in. So I might come out with a project with that soon. I have no idea, but that's just something that really stuck with me.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, do you have any plans for after CO COP26?
Well, I'm planning on just heading back to school, but I will be home in December, so I'm hoping to be able to continue to share my experience here, things that I've learned with the community, especially the schools, whether it's primary, high school, kindergarten even, as well as bring my new connections that I've made, because it's also been a lot of networking opportunities over here. Bring those connections back to the several different organizations that I work with back home. So Protect Our Future, Plastic Free Cayman, the Mangrove Rangers, National Trust, just to name a few. Come back and kind of talk to them about the different connections that are new. And then finally, to also talk to our government about what has been happening and hopefully pursue some projects that we've been speaking about over the past couple of weeks as well.
And for those of us who want to know, what are you studying at the moment?
So right now I'm studying global development and sustainability at the University of Basketball University.
Wow,
we never would have guessed.
Not at all.
So are there any
so besides, impacting the world, what do you do in your free time, or what do you find fun to do?
Well, I'm actually my dance company back home is Dream Chasers Cayman, and currently right now, obviously since I'm not in Cayman, I had to find somewhere else to dance at the moment. So with Basketball University Dance Society, and I've been chosen to actually be on the competitive jazz team this term, so I'm really excited about that.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But majority of my time is really in nature, because if I'm not dancing and I'm not doing environmentalism, I'm still like walking around my school. We have like a lake, we have a lot of hills and countryside, so I like to just walk outside and get fresh air. I don't know, I really love nature. And if I'm home, I'll be, usually every single day, I'll try to watch the sunset, have a sunset swim or a morning swim. I just really like nature, guys. Like, if you hadn't figured it out from the environmentalism, I really like nature. So
That's amazing. I think everyone loves nature. I have this thing to always take pictures of the sunset and of flowers and of trees.
But it's great to hear how enthusiastic you are about nature, and you're making me get a little like, I need to go out in nature more.
I think one of these days
so
we should go to
relaxing.
Massive Trail.
We should. Let's plan a
my
date, guys.
goodness, please.
Or
Can I be invited?
Sure, when you get back for Christmas, we can all go to Massive Trail.
I can take you guys on a snorkel. There's like
I would love that.
Oh my god, yes, please. There's a couple of friends I have as well. They're really great at snorkeling, and they have all these different spots. So let me know after the show.
We'll talk off air. We'll talk. So just a final question before we wrap up. How can other young people in Cayman become involved in taking action against climate change?
Well, there's so many ways to do it, and I just think it depends on the and their interest. And so for me, I just like everything to do with the environment. I love mangroves. I like to talk about climate change. I like to talk about coral reefs and seagrass beds and biodiversity, marine life. Like, you name it, I love it. But for some people, like one of my fellow youth leaders, Dinara, she was actually the head of the mangrove rangers before she left for university. So her specialty was mangroves. People in plastic-free Cayman or plastic. You know what I mean? So first of all, it just depends what the person likes. But once you figure that out, I think then you can kind of find, okay, what's my organization that I can work with or volunteer with? Once you get into that organization, each organization has its own structure. So I know, like POF, it's split into several different groups. You have education, you have outreach, you have social media, and research. Like, those are a few. So then you start to dig deeper into what you are interested in. And then from there, you just kind of create a community around you, and you come up with new projects, and you get really innovative and express the way that you feel. So that's one way you can do it. Or you can simply express the way that you feel on social media or on any social platforms where people can see the way that you feel, if that makes sense. So those are the two biggest things that run off the top of my head. And just getting involved with local organizations or even international organizations if you have the access to that, and to using your voice to express your opinions on these matters and to create awareness about these matters as well. Because a lot of people, they might know what climate change, they might know the phrase or words climate change, but they still don't understand what it is or how it affects Cayman or the world as a whole. So I just think there's so many ways to get involved. It just all depends on the person.
Okay.
So
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to, but I just wanted to give I wanted just to express my appreciation for a couple people while I had the chance, especially on this journey, because obviously it takes a village to get you here, right?
True.
Firstly, obviously my family and friends for supporting me, but I wanted to thank Premier Wayne Panton. He came here and he sat down with the youth and had conversations that will lead to change in our community, while also thanking the Cayman Islands government. They gave me so much help and support throughout this process, resources and feedback and critiques on my speech. the various different organizations. Once again, without the International National Trust Organization and the National Trust of the Cayman Islands, I wouldn't even have a ticket to be here. Sponsors of that: Protect Our Future, Plastic Free Cayman, the Mangrove Rangers, all Captain Planet Foundation, Lonely Whale, Ocean Heroes Network, and any other supporter that I may be forgetting at this moment. I'm sorry if I am, but all those organizations and people have been so vital in me being here, and a force to be reckoned with. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for believing in me, and I appreciate you all.
And thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you so much for having me as well, girls. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So we are in our season of joy. So can you tell us what brings you joy? And we know number one is going to be the environment, but
well, since I haven't seen them in so long, I'm gonna say my beautiful family. I miss them so much, and they bring me so much joy every single day.
I love that.
So do you have any other final comments you want to make? Any shout outs to your friends?
I think I made my little shout outs, which is good. But I think I just want to let the youth of Cayman know that I think we are in a place now where we can be unapologetically ourselves, number one, and number two, we can unapologetically express our opinions. We are in a time that is changing, and the youth voice has become more important than ever, especially since we need to take charge of our future. It's so important for people to realize that the youth voice is just as important as an elder's voice or a regular adult's voice, you know what I mean? So us as Caymanians and as a community that we need to make sure that we are giving our youth a seat at the table and appreciating them and listening to them and really trying to understand where we are coming from. So I am really enthusiastic about what's to come, because there's so many more projects to come throughout the next couple of months, the next couple of years, and hopefully by the next COP26, the Cayman Islands is in a better place for to see what's going to happen, and hopefully we continue to keep the people in political positions and people who are in high power accountable for their actions.
Well, thank you so much, DJ, for coming on the show today to share your experience at COP26. And I wish you all the best at uni and in your future endeavors. We'll now go to a quick music break.
We'll now be listening to No Goodbye by Barris Hammond.
and the ultra yummy box sticky toffee pudding. Carefully crafted, responsibly sourced ingredients, and environmentally friendly packaging. Box from our kitchen to yours. Available throughout Grand Cayman.
2020 vision. If only we had that in 2020. Life can come at us fast. 2020 vision only comes after. This 2021, don't be caught off guard. Stay insured, stay protected. I'm Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center. If you're looking for a sure way to protect your family, call me at 925-5433. Don't take chances with your family's future or your valuable assets. Call me today, Michael Webster, at 925-5433.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19, it is important to stay prepared for other disasters now that we're in the hurricane season. Here are some post-hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Cistern water designated for the purposes of drinking, cooking, and bathing must be disinfected before use after a hurricane. Simply leave the water for 1 minute after it begins to boil, or to disinfect with bleach, add 3 ounces of chlorine bleach to every 1,000 gallons of water. A residual bleach smell is an indicator that the water has been properly disinfected. For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky. Each Tuesday and Thursday from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m.
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of The Business Buzz is brought to you by Optical Outlook. Visit them at their new location in Anderson Square. Telephone 746-2020. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook.
Youth Flex for all people by young people.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Youth Flex. We are now joined by some representatives from the Junior Pan American Games. We have Nathaniel, Rhea, and Kira. Even though I just said your names, can you just introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Rhea.
Hi, my name is Kira.
Hi, I'm Nathaniel Forbes.
Okay, so can you just quickly tell us what school you guys go to and what sport or event you're going to take part in?
I go to Cayman Prep and I'm going to be swimming.
I go to Cayman Prep and I'm going to be swimming.
I go to UCCI and I'm going to be cycling.
Ooh, that's interesting. So how does it feel to about going to these games to represent Cayman?
I'm definitely honored to be able to be representing Cayman. And I'm excited, yeah.
Yeah, I would say I'm excited too, especially it's the first time going to a meet this big. I mean, we've been to others, but this is like the biggest one we've been to.
Yeah, I'm excited. Of course, representing Cayman is always an honor. Yeah.
That's good. So before I get into the whole games, how did you guys get into swimming? Rhea and Kira.
I've always loved the water since I was like really small. I guess swimming was just a natural transition from that. Yeah.
I loved the water when I was younger. My mom used to swim for Jamaica, so she kind of introduced me into swimming. So that's how I kind of started.
Interesting.
Yeah, my whole life I always had a bicycle, and I used to ride casually all the time, every day. And one day I decided to start competing, and the rest is history.
Wow. So I know last week we had some other representatives, and a new one was artistic swimming. So that was like a new one. Yeah, this is the first time ever hearing about cycling for Cayman. So how did that take place? Like what happened? You know?
Yeah, believe it or not, Cayman was on top with cycling. We had a lot of cyclists back in the days, and then we stopped because no one wants to ride bikes like that. It's always like motorcycles. It's not really a young people thing. But
yeah, that's true.
I've had that passion, so It's just me and a few guys at the moment, but yeah.
I have two friends who they love riding their bicycles. I remember like last December, every time I saw them, they were working on their bicycle.
Yeah.
It's either one day they were changing a chain or the next day they were changing another chain. I don't know how many chains on a bicycle, but it was a lot.
It's a lot of maintenance and stuff.
So can you tell us about your training and what it took to be given an opportunity to represent Cayman?
We've been training really hard, especially because we went away later in the summer, so around August. So this is one of our shortest seasons we've had. So we've had to put in a lot of effort and a lot of work just to get here.
Okay.
All right. Training. Yeah, training took a lot actually. I trained 6 days a week. Each day I will go out and do 40 miles. I do a bit of motor pacing behind a scooter. And on the weekends, on the weekends, on Saturday, I go out, do 55 miles, 60 miles. And on Sunday, go out to 107, 110. Yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of miles.
What kind of like workouts or training exercises that you guys have to do to be prepared?
Well, swimming is kind of a whole variety of things. So we do start off with our base. So that's where we do the most work. So it's longer, like more meters. So we can get up. We have something called like Hell Week. So we can get up to maybe 12K in one practice. So that's swimming for roughly 2.5 hours. And then we will have to go into like the power phases when we start doing lifting, we start doing weights to try and engage those muscles. We then go into race specific, which is where everybody kind of splits off into their separate events, as everybody doesn't swim the same events.
Okay. Do you guys swim in the same events?
Some of them overlap, but
yeah.
I mainly do more distance and she's more sprint events.
Okay. And what about you for cycling?
Yeah. With cycling, getting prepared for these sort of races, I have to do a lot of intervals, whether it's 1 minute, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, like all out, max out, like effort. Like up to yesterday, I was doing intervals. I'm a bit sore from it, but yeah, that's what it takes.
Do you have a coach for cycling?
Yes, I do.
Who's your coach?
His name is Ken Goku. He's from Trinidad. He was a former cyclist also. In the Pan Am, he was a pursuit cyclist. He actually won gold in his event.
Wow.
Yeah.
So who is your swim coach?
Our swim coach is David Pursley. He came from the States 7 years ago. We've had him, so we've had him for quite a while.
Okay. And he's a pretty good coach.
Yeah, I mean, he has his moments where he can be a little bit harsh. But
he's hardcore.
Yeah, but he does get, like, he wants the best for you.
Yeah. I've heard that saying, I'm only hard on you because I want you to be better. So, I mean, you can't really complain. We have to love those who are hard on us because they want us to excel. Yeah. So, before we continue, we're just going to take a quick music break.
The next music break is by Beyonce, and the song is called I Was Here.
And you can get 2 for only $5. Blue surgical masks and face shields are available for children and adults, as well as 10 and 50 packs of black surgical masks. Volume discounts available at Reflections, Jose's Rubus, Reflections Hemp and Tobacco, all 5 Liquor for Less locations, and Food for Less, open 24 hours every day. Don't miss the Liquor for Less incredible priced better markdown. Hundreds of fine from $2.99. Cases of ice cold below wholesale prices. Save $10 off liters of absolute exclusively at Liquor for Less. Prices so low, we can't say them on the radio.
2020 vision. If only we had that in 2020. Life can come at us fast. 2020 vision only comes after. This 2021, don't be caught off guard. Stay insured, stay protected. I'm Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center. If you're looking for a sure way to protect your family, call me at 925-5433. Don't take chances with your family's future or your valuable assets. Call me today, Michael Webster, at 925-5433.
Youth Flex for all people by young people.
Welcome back, listeners. We are still joined by Junior Pan Am representatives, Miss Rhea and Kira and Mr. Nathaniel. So can you tell us what exact events you'll be participating in the games?
I'm doing the 1500 meter, 800 meter, and 400 meter.
Okay.
I'd be doing the 50 meter, the 100 meter, the 200 meter, and the 400 meter freestyle.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'll be doing individual time trial and also road race.
Oh, okay.
That sounds like a lot of swimming for you. With the 1500.
I'm used to it.
So for the swimmers, what is your favorite stroke?
Definitely freestyle.
Freestyle.
Without a doubt.
What are like the different freestyle moves? I know nothing of
So
swimming.
it's freestyle,
I just know that you go in the water.
backstroke, butterfly.
And
Those are the only ones I know.
I
And breaststroke.
We learned this in John Gray, and I remember nothing. So, what is most exciting about going to Cali, Colombia?
Well, other than the fact that it's somewhere new and I've never been there, definitely excited to try the food. And just the culture all around seems pretty cool, so I'm excited to be in there.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with the culture and the food. It would just be exciting to see something completely different from where we've seen before.
Yeah. For me, it's going to a different country, seeing the environment, and the culture, seeing new people, the food, like she said, and racing, getting more racing, international racing. That's it.
Okay. And what are some of your goals after the games?
Like goals within the competition, or like what's up next?
Within your sport, within your life, even anything.
Just getting back to training, seeing if I can do better than how I did at the games the next meet. Yeah.
I would say maybe this would be like a big opportunity for schools to come looking, as depending on how like fast you are, what times you go. Some schools and colleges, like coaches, will come looking for swimmers.
Okay. Yeah. The goal after the games is it's to improve. Let's improve. There's always room to improve. The more you race, the better you become. And yeah.
So do you plan to do this for a living, like swimming for a living or cycling for a living?
I haven't really thought that far ahead, but I know I want to swim in university.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to see how far it can take me. I definitely would want to swim in university.
So do you guys have like a quote-unquote backup plan if swimming doesn't work out?
Yeah, I mean, we're continuing to study pretty hard in school, so I think we'll be fine either way.
So how do you balance school and sports and like all the training?
That's a very excellent question.
It's difficult.
Yeah. There are moments where it does get really difficult just because of the amount of stress you can get from school, plus the amount of stress you can get from swimming. Especially that we have to swim sometimes 3 times a week before school, so we have to pack our stuff and like get changed at the pool. But eventually you kind of get used to it and you learn how to manage your time and your work, so in a way, like doing a sport that actually helps like your management in these type of aspects.
What about you?
Yeah, it's like school and sports, it can be very, very difficult sometimes, because I go to school early in the morning and stay up late at night getting work done because I have training in the afternoon. And yeah, it's hell. It's hell.
I have a interesting question.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes when you watch like TV shows or movies, and like there's a student athlete and if their grades drop, they can't do the sport for a while. Has there ever been a moment where you actually had to put off the sport to focus on school?
Well, me personally, I've never like had to do that. Even with exams last year, I still swam, just because it was better for me, or else I would get too overwhelmed from the stress of exams, and swimming would just help like relieve the stress.
I found it to be the opposite. I felt that swimming a lot I was swimming and I was thinking about how I could be studying, and I did take a couple practices to study, and it paid off. I did well, but yeah.
Yeah, studying and cycling, yeah, I can't really stop cycling. I can't, even if exams come around, I have to just keep going. If I stop, I can't think straight, because I'm always thinking about the bike all the time, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I can see where that
that's how
yeah.
it is. That's how it is.
Have you guys been to any other games before?
Yeah, we have. We've been to Island Games 2 years ago in Gibraltar, which was also a really like crazy experience, just to see all the different like countries coming together.
Mm-hmm. We've also been to a few Carifta games, and I went to World Championships 2 years ago, and ISCA a lot in the U.S. Yeah.
And
me, this will be my first games. I've been to Caribbean Championships and Pan American Championships, and that was in August. Yeah, so this will be a first for me.
okay, that's good.
So we are in our season of joy. What brings you guys joy? Besides swimming and cycling?
I would say just hanging out with my friends. Having a social life, especially for swimming, is very important, just because it's always like go, 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 and the amount of hours that we have to put in. So especially hanging out with my friends, like outside of swimming.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but also like being outside, you know, whether that's like just going to the beach or skateboarding. Like, I like being outdoors, so that brings me a lot of joy.
Okay.
Listening to music as well.
That's nice.
What brings me joy is sometimes I like to be by myself, listening to music when I'm off the bike, maybe hanging out with some friends. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we go, do you have any final comments or shout outs that you would like to make?
I guess I would like to shout out all the supporters, or like the amount of support we've gotten in the swimming community, especially for these things to happen.
Okay. Alrighty, well, thank you all for coming on the show today. And I would just like to wish you the very best at the games, and I hope you guys get good scores, you know, bring home a gold.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You're welcome. So thank you everyone for joining us today for our final show for a season of joy. I'm your host Chanel with my co-host Deidre.
Shout out to our guests, DJ Lyons, Nathaniel Forbes, Kira and Rhea.
Yeah,
Rhea. Shout out to Radio Cayman for their work on sound and boards, Mr. Will Sinatra, DJ Lynn, and DJ Silver Fox. Shout out to Conrad for the live YouTube feed. Also, special shout out to our YouthFlex crew, Jared Miles on YouthFlex socials and community service, our musical director Jesse Watler, Soraya Ramjeet on YouthFlex news desk, Mikhail McLaughlin, our promo director, and the 100+ Flex family all over the globe.
Thanks to SIFA, Cayman Insurance Center, UE Open Campus, Train with Dre, Superior Auto for sponsoring the Super Jam, and to you, our listeners, for tuning in every Wednesday from 4 to 5 for YouthFlex on 89.9 FM. I just want to thank you, Cayman, for being a listening ear to my show and for giving me a wonderful season. Shout out to Mr. Jamo, my co-host Deidre, my musical director Jessie, she was our newest member, and she has just come in and just taken over our hearts. So thank you, Mr. Jamo, and everybody else for giving me this opportunity, and I won't be gone. You'll be hearing from me again pretty soon. I can just see Shakira back there. So until next time, this is Chanel Martinez saying, smile now, laugh later.